What are the fat controllers? The fat controllers are a term used by the metaphysical writer Stuart Wilde to refer to very evil beings, demonic beings, who are hidden from humans and who run the negative programming of planet Earth. Stuart Wilde said that if you did things like ayahuasca or DMT, you could start to see these beings. He also said that there was going to be a multidimensional overlay coming in over top of our 3D reality. And when we saw this 3D or this overlay over 3D, these dark controllers would become visible to us. And quite likely we would freak out because we would be absolutely scared and horrified to see these formerly invisible things feeding on us. Okay. Well, I don't see these things. I do see what Stuart Wilde calls the morph at times. He described it as kind of a soapy looking texture to maybe the air, and he said that the walls became kind of soapy looking, and that eventually if your vibration was high enough, you could walk through walls, and indeed he said you could walk right out of this reality, and I suppose into a place called the Aluna, or perhaps celestial realms. He said the Aluna was like a mirror world of ours, and celestial realms are where, like the Hindu gods might live. At the time when he was alive, he was involved in what he called a ghoul war. And it was him and some of his compatriots were fighting to remove the ghouls. Are the ghouls removed from me? No. If you feel itch in your nose, those are ghouls. If you have got pains and aches in your body, it is ghouls. They are also known as louche demons. So they live on the opposite of love. They live on negative vibrations. What else? Information coming in from YouTube is that these louche demons are against natural law, whatever natural law is, and that there are forces of light arrayed against them. Stuart Wilde said that in the end, the dark would fight the dark, the evil would fight the evil, and that would be the end of it. What else can we tell you about these beings? Well, as much as you might try to make friends with these beings, or they might try to make friends with you, they're two-faced, capricious, and you cannot trust them. Sometimes we consider, well, are they afflicted? And there's stories that the reptilians, Dracos, are infested with nanites, which are small robotic particles of artificial intelligence that make them mad. So is it the artificial intelligence that is the root of all evil? The programming of these things? Well, I mean, if you started with the divinity, then some beings must have. How could you fall from divinity if you were living in divinity? Free will was given, and then you were given a choice, and you could go and play with evil? Or did you start off as being very primitive life forms, like amoeba, and gradually over time evolve into higher forms? And, while you were a lower form of life, you were basically living by killing and eating other forms of life. Stuart Wilde said that the theory of evolution is incorrect as far as humans are concerned. He said that humans walked into this reality from another dimension, And that's why he said at some point, if you find the hidden shimmering doorway, you can walk out of this reality. It was reported that Stuart Wilde died in Ireland some years ago. What do you want to do about the demonic hidden controllers? Well, they want you to know they exist. They want you to question everything that you've learned and been taught about bacteria and viruses and poor genetics causing disease. They want you to know that it's nothing to do with that at all. That is all information to blind you. Consciousness is where everything is, and I keep coming back to this. Consciousness, everything that we experience here, looking around, is stuff in consciousness. I say thought forms, and other beings can create thought forms. I mean, I suppose a carpenter can make a chair out of wood, so the carpenter creates out of wood. Other beings perhaps can create holographic inserts into our reality. You can look up Dolores Cannon, that's where I got that bit from. So what's going on? Are we really going through an Earth ascension where we are leaving the old 3D reality behind and moving to higher dimensions where there's fewer of these demonics? Or is it just a game? We're staying in 3D, but they're playing a game where they're telling us there's an ascension to higher dimensions, but it's just them giving us false hope, which is kind of like what happens to Winston Smith in, was it 1984 or Brave New World? You have to look him up. But those were sort of the idea of an all-encompassing state that occasionally allowed people to believe there was a rebellion, and you could join the rebellion, but the state would eventually crush. But it was, something to keep the state busy. If the state didn't create a rebellion, then it wouldn't have anything to do, I suppose. So it always has to have an enemy. And that is what we see even today with the different nation states of planet Earth, constantly looking for new enemies. Always have to have a new enemy so you can justify huge expenditures on defense. And, you've got your mainstream media that keeps broadcasting about the great evils of the state of Iran, North Korea. And then the stories about how Saudi Arabia was the source of the 9/11 terrorists and the source of Osama bin Laden and ISIS. And yet we still have, apparently, the American government selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. The same thing with the country of Canada, still selling military hardware to Saudi Arabia, who is apparently in some kind of a border war with Yemen. Why do Western countries do this? Well, it's because the military-industrial complex wants to have profits coming from the sale of arms, and the governments want it because they want the jobs and the production in their own countries. And the people are kept in the dark that the whole thing is bullshit, non-existent, totally cooked up by corrupt people who simply want to control you due to their great greed and incestuousness among each other to keep control of prison planet Earth, as Alex Jones says. I'm Harry Weaver, your narrator.